Remember back when you were just a carefree kid in a stock photo, sitting around playing Star Fox 64? Nothing beats the fun you had then, right? Except for maybe that other time when you were in that other stock photo and played Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Both these games were so fun to play. We know nowadays it can be difficult to find the time to play great games like these, what with all the unnecessary distractions of everyday life. So today, we're gonna do something special for you. We're gonna reach inside your head, pull out those childhood memories, and make them fight each other to the death. And then, you'll be able to get right back to playing games with your whole stock photo family. That's not how you hold it, Grandma!
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Video Game Versus. In this episode, we'd like to take the time to point out a dark secret that can be found in both Star Wars Rogue Squadron and Star Fox 64. We have strong evidence that says these games are related and have backgrounds in none other than the Illuminati. Think we're dumb for saying so? Just take a look at what we found. In the opening screen for Rogue Squadron, you can clearly see something on Luke's X-Wing. Now, while you may think this is a harmless coincidence, take a look at what we found on Star Fox's opening screen. The connection seems clear. While our crack team of researchers works round the clock to figure out who's behind the Illuminati once and for all, we'll take a look at these two games and figure out which one is better.
If you've never played Star Wars Rogue Squadron, here's a quick way to find out if you'd enjoy it. Did you like the movie? You did? Then you'll like the game. It turns out shooting down TIE fighters is every bit as fun as the movies made it look. You can visit a few familiar locations from the movies and a whole lot of brand new places. You even get to fly every single kind of fighter craft you see in the movies. Except for these, which I happen to know are called B-Wings based on my Star Wars expertise. But other than that, this game had just about everything you could ask for, right down to the option to kill civilians.
Whenever you heard that music come on, you knew that a fun time was to be had. Well, at least for like an hour until you beat it. But this game did a lot of great things. It introduced the Rumble Pack, which was one of those crazy new age young people ideas at the time, but now it's standard issue in most games today. The game was super replayable with branching paths, high scores to beat, anthropomorphic animals, in space, a giant eyeball pooping brain, and perhaps what is the best video game commercial in existence.
Word on the street is you got a new Nintendo 64 game coming out.
Could you be a little more specific? We got a lot of new games coming out.
Star Fox 64. Test pilot boy.
You want to know about Star Fox 64, eh?
The game even had an unlockable hard mode where you could play as Fox with his dad's sweet shades. And by the way, this was back whenever you bought a game, you got everything with it. There was no, hey, congratulations on beating that game. You know what would look great? Costume change. You really want that costume change? That's going to be $20 and be included in the season pass. Have a nice day. We hate you.
You guys, you don't know the half of it.
The graphics for both these games are pretty good. Star Fox's graphics still look good even after all these years. Sure, they look a little cartoony, but that's okay. This game is about animals fighting in ships in space. It's supposed to look a little cartoonish. A realistic version of this game would be kinda disturbing. Rogue Squadron's graphics are good too, but they're a little more fuzzy. And they're working uphill here because they're trying to look as realistic as possible to match the movie. And with the limitations of the 64, it comes out looking not quite right. As a result, the graphics don't really hold up as well as Star Fox has. Point goes to the cocky little freak!
You did it! I was worried for a moment.
Star Fox may only have a handful of main characters, but they are still memorable and beloved to this day. Who could forget characters like Falco, the hotshot pilot, Peppy, the wise old veteran pilot who won't shut up about dear old dead dad, and Bill! That guy was great. You never really knew him other than from that one level, but you still felt like you knew him from back in the day. You feel like you get to know each of the characters through the in-game chatter, and each character has a distinct and unique personality. Now let's look at Rogue Squadron. You feel like you already know these characters too, but only because you watched the movie, not because of the game. They have their own versions of the in-game chatter, but there's no dialogue box, so you don't even know who's talking half the time. And most of the things they say are pretty generic. There's not very many memorable lines. It just can't compare with,
Who are you guys?
We're Star Fox.
You'll never defeat Android! You're becoming more like your father.
Rogue Squadron has a lot of levels, and they did a good job with creating new worlds to fight in, instead of constantly revisiting areas we saw in the movies. The problem is, for a game all about spaceships, you never actually fight in space. Seems kinda like a missed opportunity. That's like making a cooking show without showing any food, or a nature documentary without any nature. Okay, sure, you fight on non-atmospheric moons a couple times, so technically you're in space, but I'm talking about free flying like in Star Fox. No asteroid belt levels or deep space dogfights. And even when it comes to just planet-based combat, Star Fox has more variety. A lot of Rogue Squadron's levels are kind of similar, but in Star Fox you can fight everywhere from the bottom of the ocean to the surface of the sun. I'm not saying Rogue Squadron doesn't have variety, because it does, but Star Fox just has more.
You did it!
Star Fox has some good songs, but only a few stand out. The opening theme, main menu theme, Star Wolf's theme, and the ending credits are really the only great ones that stand out. The rest of the music isn't bad, there's just nothing about them that really makes them memorable. Rogue Squadron has some great songs too, and while it may have a dud here and there, there are just a few more that it has to keep things interesting and new, while also helping to immerse you in the Star Wars world. Now, while the argument could be made that Rogue Squadron kinda cheats and that its best music comes straight from the movie, that isn't fair to discount it on that reason. So while it may be a close one, we're gonna give Rogue Squadron the point on this one. You just can't beat Star Wars music.
You have all done your part to strengthen the Rebel Alliance. May the Force be with you.
Rogue Squadron's story just kinda loosely links a lot of missions together. For this mission, we gotta go rescue Wedge. Now we gotta go rescue the other prisoners. Okay, now we gotta go blow up a factory. It's not that the missions aren't fun, but it feels like they built the levels and objectives first, and then just sorta structured a story around it. But in Star Fox, the story feels like an integral part of the game. As Fox, you have a real motivation to beat Andros, because at the beginning of the game you find out he killed your dad. Or did he? Because at the end of the game, spoiler alert, it looks like your dad leads you out of the exploding planet core. I'm still not sure if he was really alive, or if it was all in Fox's head. I guess we'll never know. But either way, that's great storytelling, and one more reason Star Fox wins the point on this one.
Time to show the monkeys who's boss!
Now when looking at the surface of these two games, it can be hard to tell which one has better gameplay. But fortunately for you guys, I don't have a girlfriend to take up my time! So Rogue Squadron. The gameplay for this is tight and pretty solid. No real annoying glitches or dumb camera controls to get in the way of you taking on the Empire. But Star Fox does just a little bit more. Your ship moves just a little bit quicker and feels just a little bit more responsive. A lot of the ships in Rogue Squadron can feel kinda bulky, but Star Fox's R-Wing always feels responsive and that you are in total control. Star Fox also has pickups on the map like laser enhancers or a smart bomb that can help spruce up variety during the game. Rogue Squadron may have had more vehicles to fly than Star Fox did, including some really awesome unlockables like the Millennium Falcon, a car, and even the Naboo Starfighter from the upcoming movie. But even so, they don't control that differently to make the gameplay vary more than Star Fox does. And even if they were tied in gameplay, Star Fox has multiplayer, and one of the biggest criticisms Rogue Squadron faced was the lack of a multiplayer mode. This one goes to Star Fox.
Your skills have improved, Fox.
Remember those Choose Your Own Adventure books? There was a reason they were so successful. The idea that you controlled things in the story instead of just being a passive observer was fun, and it meant the story would be different each time you read it. That's how it is with Star Fox. Kinda like the N64 version of Mass Effect, how you do on a mission determines where you go next. So if you suck really bad but still survive to the end of the level, you follow this path. If you don't suck at all, you follow this path. If you only kinda suck, you take this path. This game has a lot to do with sucking, actually. And depending on which path you take, you can fight Starwolf and his team once or twice. If one or two of your partners get shot down, they're out for the next mission, and the dialogue between your remaining teammates changes. The Andros boss fight would even be different. Beat Andros after getting to him on the easiest path, and when his head blows up, you find out he's a robot. But if you beat the game on the hardest path, his head blows away to reveal a giant floating brain, 2 eyeballs, and a terrific pun.
Only I have the brains to rule my life.
There's even a cool warp opportunity hidden in the asteroid belt. I never could do it because I sucked too much, but that's still a cool hidden feature. Rogue Squadron, you did nothing wrong here. Most games have the same levels to play through each time, and that's not a bad thing. But Star Fox just went above and beyond, creating a unique story every time you play. Replayability point definitely goes to Star Fox.
That's our leader.
So it looks like Star Fox beats out Rogue Squadron in almost every category. Sure, Rogue Squadron's a great game and all, but when compared to Star Fox, you can just tell that it isn't as good on so many levels. So in the end, Star Fox is the winner.
By the way, during our research of these two games, our team was able to uncover the leader of the Illuminati. Brace yourself, because we discovered the Illuminati leader behind the whole thing is none other than... hold on a second. Bruce, can you go get that?
Sure. Hello, boys.
George Lucas? I knew it!
Of course. How do you think I got away with making 3 prequels? If I wasn't in control of the Illuminati, they never would have made that much money. Looks like you boys need to be taught a lesson.
My leg! Shot me in the leg!
Why are you doing this?
Well, I heard you were making a video that Star Wars was going to lose in. Well, I want it to win, so I'm re-releasing the special edition version. It's gonna be much better. We'll put in a bunch of CGI. We'll make one of the characters more dark and have teen anger. We'll make Slippy more prominent because he's one of the more funnier characters and people will love him. I'm not gonna let you go! If you don't want to end up like your friend there, you'll change the video.
Never.
So be it. Now let's see here. In Rogue Squadron, you can clearly see that there's X-Wings. But in that Star Fox game, the ships don't even look close to X-Wings. So I've got to give that graphics point to Rogue Squadron. For the characters, I definitely like that Slippy fellow. He's one of the more funnier characters. But nobody in this game has the Force. And Luke, he's got the Force. That easily makes him a much better character. Rogue Squadron has to win the levels category too, because, well, I'm George Lucas, and I know what's best. It's good to see these boys chose Rogue Squadron to win the music category, so I don't need to change anything there. Where are Star Fox movies? Huh? If the story was so good, it would have had its own movie. I made 6 Star Wars movies. My story's better. I can't believe they gave the gameplay point to Star Fox. I mean, really? You can play as the hero of the galaxy, or a fox? Which would you rather play as, huh? I think the choice here is clear. Finally, the replayability should go to Rogue Squadron as well. You really think a Star Fox game can beat me in replayability? I've been re-releasing my movies for years. I'm currently working on the George Lucas Even More Special Edition for Episode 4. I've been milking these babies for 40 years. If that doesn't win me the replayability point, then I don't know what does. Well, that concludes the George Lucas Special Edition of Video Game Versus. I thought these boys did a good job. I just needed to fix a few things here and there. You should definitely subscribe to their channel and give them a like, though, because they'll be releasing even more video game matchups. George Lucas approved matchups, of course. Don't worry about them being dead now and all. We'll just get some CGI hosts in the show and it'll be fine. CG is much better than using real people. Thanks for watching. I'm George Lucas. I made Star Wars.